salespeople have you met that have years of experience, know all the stuff, but your gut, your nervous system is telling you that they're a shyster?
I love the fact that you called this a juicy episode. I think it is going to be juicy. Juicy is such a cool descriptor. Closing more sales. Isn't that what everyone comes and asks us about? Hey, Sophia, how are we going to close more sales? Need to close more sales. You know what I think the mistake, you've noticed this, we've spoken about this a few times.
Are you hearing what you want to hear? Or are you being hyper present in the meeting and really asking those difficult questions?
They're going to say to you, too expensive. We needed it on Thursday. You don't do it in red.
At this point, I'm giving you a free Lil New York.
It's never about the price. It's always about the fit. Go around worried that you don't know how to monetize pain.
Well, hey there. Welcome back, closers, to another juicy episode of Unscripted Selling with Carlos
and Sophia.
Yes. Today's topic is how to close more sales, key elements and strategies. If you continue listening to this episode, we're going to talk to you about having that conviction to bring the deal over the line. We're going to talk about pain, money, decision, establishing trust, creating a natural environment where you can bring that deal over the line. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then keep listening. And please do not forget to hit like if you're watching us on YouTube, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube and the Apple and the Spotify and all the places that you are tuning in with us today. So let's dive on in, Carlos. What do you say?
I love the fact that you called this a juicy episode. I think it is going to be juicy. So, closing more sales. Isn't that what everyone comes and asks us about? Hey, Sophia, how are we going to close more sales? Need to close more sales. You know what I think the mistake, you've noticed this, we've spoken about this a few times. People say to us, tell us the closing, give us the close, give us the cool ways to close. And typically they're talking often about a deal. They are typically talking about a deal that's unclosable. It's like they're trying to create this magic closing wand. They want us to give them the magic closing. I've not found my magic closing wand for a long time. Have you got your magic closing wand?
I don't. And closers, you may remember from a previous episode, we went through all of the super ineffective old school closing techniques. And we're all looking for it. Hey, if any of you closers find the magic words, say the magic words to close more deals, then please send us an email and fill us in, because obviously are there words? There have been shown that there are certain words that close more deals, but I think that those types of articles I find are a little bit of clickbait, right? And they know everyone's going to click it. We know that there are no magic words, are there, Carlos?
And hey, listen, viewers, listeners, if you do find either my magic closing wand or Sophia's magic closing wand, hey, please put it in an envelope and send it over to Unscripted Selling in Miami. Because we've lost our magic closing one. So what I mean by that is people come to us and say, help us close this deal, as if we've got the magic closing wand, when in reality, it's not a deal that can get closed. The problem wasn't with the close. The problem was with how they set it up. Have we truly discovered an economic fit? You know, have we discovered a compelling, emotionally connected reason to work together? Are we even speaking to the right decision makers? So, you know, are we speaking? What's there are so many flaws to the deal that no magic closing wand is ever. Well, the magic closing wand could close it, but if you haven't got your magic closing wand, there's no closing. So let's pick these off one by one. I think the most important part of closing more sales is actually discovering good reasons to work with somebody.
Right.
You know, really discovering and developing and having that conversation. In what Sophia and I do, we call it, and we have a phrase that if you haven't got pain, you haven't got a deal. You gotta find the compelling, emotionally connected reason for somebody to do business with you. And we have a ton of techniques to do two things. The first thing that does is identify that reason. The second thing our techniques do is really develop that reason. It isn't just like, hey, find that pain, find that surface pain, that reason, and then run with it. No, it needs to be real cooked up, right? We need to really connect with that pain. We need to really connect with that compelling, emotionally connected reason to do business together, salesperson and prospect. And I see that most deals that struggle to, I would say most, I think most is right. Most deals that struggle to close, it's a fundamental lack of this point of pain, of a finding a reason to work together. Don't you?
I would, and I think that I think salespeople, and hey, me and Carlos have been guilty of it too. I think sometimes when we feel pressure at pipeline reviews, and this, this has a lot to do with leadership too. When we feel a lot of pressure to chase that number, we might be sitting across from a prospect, maybe in a complex sale environment, and we might be hearing what we want to hear. We might get in our car or shut down that Zoom meeting thinking that we extracted pain, but we really didn't. And maybe we did extract pain, but we were really not talking to the right person. And maybe we didn't really get clear next steps. We got some wishy-washy, oh, well, let's circle back after the holidays. And so are you hearing what you want to hear? Are you being hyper present in the meeting and really asking those difficult questions and getting real pain, not just wishy-washy pain?
Yeah, and be careful of those happy ears. I always like, whenever I'm helping a client do a pipeline review, and if you're a sales leader here like Sophia is, write this one down. When you're going through your pipeline review, you ask the lead, the sales lead on the deal, hey, why should this deal close? Why should this deal close for us? Why should this deal close for the prospect? And then hold on to your hats, because I'm telling you, you're going to hear some pretty wishy-washy, scratchy head, like, well, they kind of want to buy, and it's not, it's like a bell ringing. This deal's got trouble. Another cool question is to think about it the other way as well. Tell me why we're going to lose this deal. As a sales leader, really great question that. Tell me why we're going to lose this deal. This is
what's going to blow this up?
What's going to blow this up? Tell me, and if a salesperson can answer that question, and by the way, if you've not got a sales manager who's groovy, you can ask yourself these questions, listeners, viewers. You can look down your pipeline and say, what is the compelling reason this deal's going to close, and what's going to happen that's going to blow this thing up? And in my experience, it isn't that something disastrous is going to happen to the deal that's going to blow that deal up. That's the problem. It's that there isn't a compelling reason that this deal should happen, but let me tell you what that sounds like. It never sounds like, prospect never says to you, well, we haven't discovered the compelling reason to buy, right? They're never going to say that to you. They're going to say to you, too expensive. We needed it on Thursday. You don't do it in red. They're going to tell, it's going to come dressed in another set of clothes, but it's never going to be, you didn't discover the right level of pain in me, Mr. and Mrs. Salesperson. So beware. How much conviction can you answer that question for all your deals with? How much conviction can you answer with when you ask yourself, what is the compelling reason this deal should happen for the prospect?
What give me an example of what would a compelling reason? Like, to me, a compelling reason might be, hey, we have an inspector coming in next month, and if we're not looking tip top great, then I will lose my position and probably my reputation, and it'll be pretty hard for me to find a position in this same role elsewhere. Now, that sounds compelling.
That's pretty compelling. Let me take it one layer further than that, though.
Ooh.
Let me add something to the end of that sentence. And I've bought these services before, and they let... So, we've got an inspector coming. If this isn't tip-top, and I'm going to lose my reputation, potentially lose my job, and I've been burned before by somebody who looks just like you, looks like just those, the villains and your competitors They look just like you. Nobody's going to that prospect saying, hey, we can do that, but we're not as good as George. They're not saying that. They're saying we're just as good as George, if not better. So a great example is, let's imagine you're selling roofs, right? Let's imagine you're a roof salesman, commercial roof salesman. And and the manager says to you, hey, what's the compelling reason? Why is this going to happen? And your answer is, well, their roof has got a hole in it, and every time it rains, water comes in. That's a compelling reason that the roof is going to get changed. That is not a compelling reason that you're getting the gig. What's the compelling reason that you're getting the gig, right? It might be the roof was only 2 years old and the last guys blew it, but we come highly recommended. It might be our engineers have worked more closely, and we did this extra step to really understand both the project and the decision makers. I think it comes down in many ways to empathy. Are we really in the head of our buyer and the way they're thinking about this decision? It's empathy. It isn't enough to say they need a new roof because there's water coming in. That means a roof is going to get bought, not your roof. How much empathy have you really understood the dilemma that this prospect is wrestling with, and have you achieved a status of trusted advisor such that you know you're getting that gig? So, as you and I know, Sophia, a deal that blows up is often because of the pain. It really is.
Yeah.
But it never comes dressed as pain, right? It comes dressed as money, but it's often pain.
As you were saying that, Carlos, what came into my mind was like, it's almost, there's something a little bit primal about it. And what I mean by that is, how does the buyer's nervous system feel in the buyer-seller experience? Like, do they feel like this person has my best interest in mind? Are they asking me compelling questions? Do I feel, am I enjoying this buying experience as much as possible? Because no one really enjoys having to buy a new roof. But is Carlos making me feel as sound as possible? Do I trust him? And do I feel that he's the right guy for this job? He's going to help me and my family make the right choice.
Yeah, I think the key question in that list is, does Carlos understand me? Does Carlos really understand me? And then that second behind that, and do I trust Carlos? Because if I trust Carlos and Carlos understands me and what I'm going through, then magic happens, right? Then we've got a little spark of magic.
And some of you might be thinking, okay, trusted advisor means that I got to know all this stuff. Well, how many salespeople have you met that have years of experience, know all the stuff, but your gut, your nervous system is telling you by their body language and specific words that they're using or not using that they're a shyster?
That's a great word.
Right. It's a good New Yorky word.
New York. Yeah. Shyster. Yeah.
So,
and it isn't about product knowledge. You're exactly right. It's about human knowledge. It isn't, does this sales guy know the product? Does this sales guy get me?
That's really it.
Get me. And this is why I always tell our clients and really anyone who'll listen to me, I'm a fun guy to meet at a cocktail party, let me tell you. Anyone who'll listen to me, I'll tell them that it's whenever in a sale you can get out your magic ball, your crystal ball, and predict the future, you basically own that deal. So if you can say to a prospect, let's go back to our roofer analogy, right? So you say to the prospect, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, you've got a tricky decision coming up. You've invited me over, and we've taken a good look at your roof. I think we've got a premier solution for you. I know that we've worked with a lot of your neighbors, so we understand houses of this construct. We know how to create roofs that last for a long time. Whatever, all about roof. But then you get the crystal ball out and you say, Your dilemma is that you've asked 2 or 3 guys that look like me to come round. And guess what? We all look the same. And you're going to get out the quotes. You're going to get a quote off each of us. You're going to line these quotes up. And in reality, they're all going to look a bit different, but most of it's going to look the same. So you're going to focus in on a particular number. You're going to focus in on the one part of that quote that you understand, which is the dollars. And you're going to end up making this deal on dollars, and it's going to be a dastardly mistake. I could give you story after story after story where people who didn't intend to buy based on price found themselves in a position where that was the only differentiator they understood. So this is the predicament that's in front of you. And I can also tell you as many stories of how that's gone badly. Can I make a suggestion? When that happens, when you sat there with the 3 quotes, hey, give me a call. I'm not saying I'm going to win the deal. I'm probably going to give a little bias towards my quote, but at least I'll help you see the differences. Now, let me tell you what happens now. Roll that clock forward. That was quite nice, right? Roll that clock forward 3 days. Mr. Prospect sat there with Mrs. Prospect at a kitchen table. They're just laying these 3 quotes out, and a little bell goes off in Mr. Prospect's head that says, wait a minute, this is what Carlos said was going to happen. Oh my goodness, Carlos was right. I don't know how to look at these 3 quotes. And as soon as that happens, Mr. Prospect thinks, Carlos understands me. Because I got my crystal ball out and I predicted the future. The only way I could do that is by I could either do it because I've got some supernatural X-Man ability, or I really understood my prospect. And and this is exactly what you were talking about, Sophia. Once that happens, prospect, there's a neuro explosion happens, right? I don't know if that's a medical term, a neuro explosion. Have you ever heard of a neuro explosion?
I'm sure it is.
I'm sure we can find one. Neuro explosion happens, and instantly trust is confirmed. Trust was kind of already there, but it's confirmed.
It's a great way of saying it without saying it. When you tell them, hey, you're going to be sitting with these quotes and you're going to not know, what to do with these 3 quotes. It's going to be like Japanese to you, and it's not going to really help you make your decision. And when then they find themselves in that situation, it is a great way of saying it without saying it that, hey, I do this all the time. I know how this ring around the rosy goes.
The New Yorker came out then. The New Yorker could do that in New Yorker. That was, hey.
Oh, I do this all the time. I know the experience you're gonna have. You're gonna try to go for the cheapest. Let me tell you something. If you're gonna go with me, that's fine. If you're not gonna go with me, that's fine. But I'm telling you right now, don't make this decision based off of price. Okay, Costanza?
Fantastic, like a Soprano episode. That's guys, New Jersey.
At this point, I'm giving you a free Lil New York monologue here. So if you haven't liked and subscribed to this freaking channel already, then go check on the sauce on the stove, and then come back and like and subscribe. All right,
like and subscribe. So, number one, I think we've made our point here for our listeners. We've made our point. Really understand the prospect, really empathize with what they're struggling with, what they're wrestling with. And it isn't done quickly, guys. Spend a bit of time with it. I personally believe it's 70% of the sales call is that point. Understanding the problem, understanding the prospect. We also wanted to talk about conviction, because if you've got that trust, but how much conviction have you got? And tell our listeners how you build conviction.
So before we even think about conviction, I don't know if we've made it clear enough to you closers that if you're having an issue at the end, if you're getting some excuse like too expensive, we needed it on Thursday, if your deal is blowing up at the end, you need to go backwards. The car crash didn't happen when you wrapped the BMW around the lamppost. It happened a mile back when you were screaming the Spice Girls, with your best friends, and your best friend was standing out the sunroof, right?
Yep.
So if it's blowing up at the end, so conviction. What does it mean to have conviction? I recommend you study. If you don't feel that you have that conviction in selling, I recommend that you study people with conviction. What names come to mind? To me, Jim Rohn always comes to mind. Who are people who have a voice that has a lot of conviction? Selling is part theater. And you study the neuro-linguistic programming of people in the public eye that have a lot of conviction. Graduation speeches, Oscar winner speeches. First of all, study the voice. And that's going to be the technique part. But the mindset, the real conviction happens when you have an abundance of riches, of opportunities in your pipeline. And that happens when we're prospecting every day. We're planting seeds every day. That's where conviction really comes from, right, Carlos?
Yeah, we also, in technical sales parlance, that the reason that communicates conviction is because what it really creates is walkaway presence. If you've got an abundance of riches, an embarrassment of riches in your pipeline and in your deal book, then that naturally becomes walkaway presence. And
if you're the hot chick with a lot of options,
that's walkaway presence.
That's walkaway presence.
So when you've got that walkaway presence, that just screams conviction. That's somebody who wants this deal for somebody else, not for themselves. It is the motive sits in the right place. I also agree that you can study those people who have got extraordinary gravitas in their voice, because that's what it sounds like when you've got conviction. And I also like Jim Rohn. There are some wonderful podcasters. Huberman, if you know Huberman, Andrew Huberman, he's got a great, rich conviction voice, rich in gravitas. He speaks slowly, quietly, with deep tones. But the reality is, rather than theater, make it real by just having loads of prospects.
That's right.
If you've got, that's right. We say the strength of your conviction is directly proportional to the depth of your pipeline. And that's because of this walkaway presence that naturally comes out of having an embarrassment of riches in your pipeline. So pipeline creates conviction. I think we need to touch on a few of the other things that we mentioned before in terms of being able to close deal fast. Economic fit. I hinted at it earlier. Let me go to economic fit quickly. And the reason we've spent most of this session talking about pain and the compelling emotional reason to do business together, we've spent most of the episode talking about it, is because that's actually a mirror for how your sales call should be. You should spend most of your sales call talking about the compelling, emotionally connected reason to do business together. But economics is also important. There has to be an economic fit. Usually that reason, that emotionally connected, compelling reason to do business together, that can often get a dollar attached to it. So, for example, I don't know. Let's go back to our roofing example. So, one of the things that you're considering when you're buying a new roof is the insurance requirements. And if you get a good high quality roof that passes the 4-point wind inspection, whatever the hell that is, you get a $2,000, $3,000 discount to your home insurance. So guess what? What we've done there is we've taken the pain over here and we've found a dollar amount to attach to it to help contextualize your pricing. If we can dollarize pain, if we can monetize the issue that's being solved, we put an economic context around the decision and around your price. Sophia and I tell our clients all the time, it's never about the price. It's always about the fit. Don't be running around worried that you're too expensive. Go around worried that you don't know how to monetize pain. So you cannot put your pricing, your price point into economic context. And I think it's worth spending just these 2 or 3 minutes advising our listeners about this, Sophia, because it only takes 2 or 3 minutes in a sales call, by the way. It doesn't take much to monetize pain. It really doesn't.
So give our listeners an example of how you might monetize pain in 2-3 minutes.
Well, let's do that roofing example. So,
okay.
So you play Mrs. Prospect.
Okay.
And I'll say, so insurance, hey, tell me, I know you're going to put a new roof on this, but have you figured out how important the roof is in terms of your insurance costs, Sophia?
Oh, well, Carlos, no, I haven't actually.
A lot of people that are working with us are saying that they've noticed insurance costs going up recently. Have you noticed yours going up?
Yep, a little bit.
Well, then you're doing very well, because most people it's more than a little bit. But insurance costs are going up. Insurance companies are looking for any reason they can to increase your premium. Would you be surprised if I told you that the difference between, and I'm going to make an estimate here, a property like yours, the difference between getting a roof that can pass the 4-point wind inspection and a roof that doesn't pass that 4-point wind inspection, that's going to determine who insures you, whether you go to an insurer of last resort. And the difference in cost, insurance cost, on a property like this could be up to $5,000. Is that a crazy amount of money? Can you connect with?
Yeah. That I can. Yeah.
So I'm not
Definitely.
saying for a moment that we're the only guys in town who are going to give you a roof that passes a 4-point wind inspection. Not at all. What I am saying to you is there are plenty of outfits in town that won't put a roof on that passes a 4-point wind inspection. So beware. Because, what looks like it might be a little cheaper can end up costing you an extra $5,000 a year for the next 20 years. Well, that adds up.
Wow.
$5,000 a year for the next 20 years. And again, we're not the only house in town, but beware. So now what have I done? What I've done is I've helped you see that, I hope I've helped you see, first of all, cheapest might not be the best idea. Cheap might be expensive, as my wife is always telling me.
You said it without saying it.
Yeah. And I've just added a tiny little economic context to this decision. And if you gave me another 10 minutes, I'd add 4 or 5 other different dimensions to this conversation, such that when my quote arrives at $40,000 for a new roof, the buyer's going to look at that and think, do you know what? That looks cheap at half the price, at twice the price, right? That looks cheap. And especially if I've developed that trusted advisor status. So, hey, we've talked a lot today, right? We've given them we've talked about money, we've talked about conviction, and we've talked about economic fit. I think next time we do one over the next few weeks, let's talk about how to really understand the prospect's decision making process, right? Let's follow up with that. Let's follow.
Okay.
So, takeaways today, guys. Here's your takeaways from today. There is no magic closing wand. If you've developed a compelling economic or a compelling reason, emotionally connected reason that a buyer should buy from you, and if you have connected that to money in a compelling way such that the decision has got an economic context to it that makes sense, there's fit, and if you're communicating with conviction, and if you get your crystal ball out and predict the future such that that customer understands you've got a lot of empathy, and if you've developed trust, hey guys, you're going to be able to close more sales for more money, more easily, and more quickly. And isn't that what this game is all about? Hey, that's this week's podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're going to wish our closers a great week selling, and it's goodbye from Sophia.
And goodbye from Carlos. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys.